know, when you first said the thing about how that, you know, a lot of this power is not actually even for Ohio, right? You know, what that actually kind of made me think of, right, is a little bit related to this in that I grew up in a country that's begun to go underwater, right? You know,
Where?
Bangladesh, right, which is on the ocean, very, very low, right, because of
So they're
global
gonna
warming
get
stuff.
hit
Like
with
it's like, you know, lost, like whole farms are like not, the land is gone, right, you know, and it's like I feel like what I saw in the coverage of the Copenhagen summit this last fall was a lot of, you know, poor countries basically saying, dude, we are paying the price for we're not even using the energy, right?
Yeah.
But it's the same situation where you have an expendable community, basically, right? And among the kind of activists I know there, what you know, because they kind of can't look to, even if they had every politician in Bangladesh being like, this sucks, you know, it wouldn't matter because it's not coming from there, right? So it sounds like a lot of what you're saying is that actually...
Getting people to take personal responsibility.
And people who are not in Ohio, too, right? I mean,
Right.
it sounds
They,
like
at
it's
the
about
same
need
time,
somewhere else.
Michigan changed state law to say that they were not going to build any more power
Right.
plants there. At the same time,
Right.
they changed state law that said that they could buy it from outside their state.
Right. So what I wanted to ask is, you know, to what extent do you like work with either like international networks or like really nationwide kind of people? You know, it sounds like
People from my community couldn't get to Copenhagen.
yeah.
You know, a lot of the big
right.
green groups were there,
Right.
and you know, sometimes people will take bits and pieces of your story and say that they represent you or whatever. But I can tell you that people from my community weren't going, and
Yeah, no, definitely.
I think that we need to do that. We need to band together, and I don't know what ended up even coming out of Copenhagen.
Nothing.
Nothing.
Actually, there was no
Absolutely
decent
nothing.
agreement whatsoever.
Nothing.
Nothing. Except for a global network of young activists, you know, meeting each other and, you know, giving
That's
away the Angry
significant.
Mermaid Award and like that kind of stuff, you know, and meeting each other, right?
Right.
You know, so I mean, I was just thinking about, you know, what kind of, you say you don't have internet access in a lot of places, but I'm just trying to think about what kind of
I
points
go
of
to the
access.
library. I'll be at Wendy's when they close at 2 o'clock in the morning with my
Yeah.
computer balanced between my fat ass and the steering wheel, and I'm still typing away.
You know, so I mean, it's like trying to think of, you know, what kind of points of access, you know, can we kind of think of to... Because those people want to know people, honestly, those people who live on the sea in Bangladesh are like, where are the people who live in the United States that have talked to a legislator before? Because actually we have to get them to do something,
Right.
or we're going to be underwater. It doesn't matter what we do locally, right? So.
And our house rep, his
About that.
uncle was the vice president of Arch Coal, the second largest mountaintop mill company out there. So there was no turn to our local house rep for that.
Right.
So that's why we need to get together and talk. Because there's got to be ways that we can do this. These guys are on their way out. I mean, it's either going to be by their choice or because it crashes and dies. And I'd like to see it be a graceful transition. So we're going to have to help them. I don't know, if you've got any ideas on that, I'd be happy to. I didn't tell anybody like my contact, but if you want to get in touch with me, you can do it through Teresa. Or my phone number is 740-416-2694. So feel free to pick up the phone and call me, or stick it in your cell phone, because this is important to me.
Yes, I guess one of the questions I have is, we hear what you say, and it seems like, okay, well, this is the problem. And
Right.
there are solutions out there. So I guess one of the questions that I have is, what sort of contact have you had with groups that promote wind energy, all these things? So you see that a lot of times they're trying to build a huge wind farm on Lake Erie, up in Ontario.
Yeah.
And people say, well, it's going to ruin my view. Actually, Grand Isle, which is the richest...
I'm with you, Teresa.
It's the richest, it's a very wealthy suburb. It's where all the GM execs used to live. They're worried that it's going to ruin their view. So I mean, I guess, have you ever tried to put these people's...
Mr. Global Warming Kennedy, he pulled the same thing.
Well, I guess what I'm asking is that I would think that if you showed up there, you showed them, this is what our water looks like, that might help put it into perspective.
It would.
I mean, I guess one of the other things I was going to mention is, I don't know if you've heard about this, but ExxonMobil does an annual energy report in which they found that clean coal, this is, if you have it with the injection, is not competitive with renewable energy
It's not.
That's not
on a
real.
price basis.
It's not really can't be competitive.
And if we took, when I filed that appeal against the siting permit, I got real familiar with the Ohio Power Siting Board site. And they have got pages of subsidies that we're paying right now to the coal industry. And so if we could start chipping away at the subsidies and get them out of there, then it wouldn't just take a report, like, people would actually be paying
Well, I mean, I'm
to see
talking with
it.
all the subsidies.
Mhm.
I mean, ExxonMobil is hardly what you
Mhm.
call someone who's favorable to the environment,
Mhm.
so.
I would like, can I say something?
Yeah.
I would just like to emphasize, I really agree with what Lisa's saying. A lot of the clean coal stuff is largely just industry propaganda because there's so many clean coal plants that have been proposed all around the
Right.
country, but that sort of sequestration technology requires a local geology that's very specific, and in many, many of these sites, that geology is totally lacking, which would then require to have a national pipeline infrastructure built up to support that clean coal, that is sequestration technologies, which is totally non-existent and require like national infrastructure investments that are totally astronomical and totally unfeasible by any means, let alone the environmental impacts that that sort of thing would have. So I mean, largely it's just sort of a greenwashing of, I mean, that phenomenon is really evident in all sorts of aspects of our society right now, but particularly in this case, which is sort of the two egregious example.
Isn't it also kind of a situation in which, I mean, it seems to me that a situation where you're basically buying a lot of permits and not necessarily actually building anything there may actually be an economic strategy to stockpile permits, right? So you actually own a lot of stuff and therefore you have a lot of political weight, right? You know what I'm saying? It's just kind of like a sort of roundabout way of like taking up a lot of space
And
as
the
an
one
economic sort of.
IGCC site, there was a road that collapsed over there,
Yeah.
and they just shut it down, nobody can get back there now.
Right.
And AEP owns a lot of the property.
Right.
And when you look at who owns the property, Franklin Real Estate is the AEP,
Right.
and they own like almost all of the riverfront property in our county now. And they've done it that way.
You know,
Yeah.
allows them to make a lot of decisions in the community, right?
It does, because then they'll get
Regardless of what they
$1,000 for a
put
swimming pool or $500 to the cancer
Right.
organization, and my God, what good neighbors they are. Mm-hmm, yeah. And with the IGCC, like what you guys were saying about costs, I don't know if you guys realize this, but when the first IGCC was proposed on the Ohio side of the river, the way they got the money is they put it on the ratepayers' bills. And people here in Ohio paid the first $24 million for the research and development for that before the Ohio Consumers Council took the Supreme Court and got it knocked down, because it was not legal for them to bill for an unregulated industry. And they got that from the Supreme Court, but they never gave us back the money. And I was writing a lot of letters about that. It was like, hey, if they went to a bank and they borrowed that kind of money, they have to pay it back with interest. You know, why are we getting paid back here? Well, now they have re-regulated the industry. And so what it was illegal for them to do before, and most people don't even know they paid $24 million for that. It was illegal for them to do before is now legal. And so they could come back, and when I asked the EPA about it, they said they put the permits on hold. Well, after so many years, I think it's like 2 years after they issue a permit, they're supposed to completely toss it out because things can change a lot in 2 years. And they said, we're putting it on hold.